receive services like speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy, nursing services, etc. Many of those students do not. Okay? We went through the list, and right now, of that 154, only 90 of those students are receiving those services. Okay? So when you compute, our total special education population, okay, and you see how many of the students we actually can get reimbursed for, it's right around 18.5%. Okay? So it's a challenge. It's certainly a challenge, but it's something that we're working towards, and we're certainly trying. We're making every effort possible to increase the revenue. Another excellent question. Okay, for those students who are not eligible, who do we partner with to provide the necessary services to those children who are not eligible for Medicaid services? Okay, very, very good question. Very important to note that what's king, trumps everything, is the IEP. Okay? So if a child is provided with speech services, occupational therapy services, physical therapy services, whatever they happen to be, whether we're reimbursed for SEMI or not, the child is going to receive those services. Okay? The difference is if the child is Medicaid eligible, the district will receive some reimbursement for those services. I think those were the questions, but I'm certainly willing to answer any others if I didn't make anything clear, or if there's any further clarification.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
I want to say that was very helpful, and I think that the most important thing that was stated, and it was stated at the end, a child's need for services are going to be driven by the student's IEP. So if the student needs speech services, counseling services, occupational therapy, physical therapy, whatever it is that's in his or her IEP, that child will get those services regardless of whether or not SEMI is reimbursing, because the student's services are driven by the IEP. So therefore, this is more a question of revenue reimbursement than it is whether or not our students are getting the services they need. And I think that's something important for the community to understand, that our children are getting the services regardless, including nursing services. If certain nursing services are needed, they must be provided. If it's in the IEP, it really doesn't matter whether or not we get reimbursed. We are required under federal and state law to provide those services to the kids. So I think that for me, it was really funny as you were going on. I was waiting with bated breath saying, please, oh please say the kids still get the services. And it's just a question of, will we be reimbursed?
But doesn't that law give us a target of 90% that we have to achieve? What's the penalty to us if, when we can't force the parents to file the paperwork, which is always the catch-22. I mean, we basically run into the same thing with free and reduced lunch. If a parent refuses to complete the paperwork for whatever reason, whether it be, pride or whatever they don't want to put in for it, what is our penalty if we don't make that 90% number?
The reality is that percentage number, it's kind of difficult to understand. At least for me, it was initially. There's a way to kind of get around that, because as long as you've made the effort to reach the parents, the report will show you have 100% parental participation rate. The reality is, though, where the district will get hit is the fact that we will not meet the required amount of revenue that we're supposed to receive, because we have less students that are receiving semi-eligible. That's where it really becomes a problem.
I have a few follow-up questions, but please go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Ruiz. So, thank you so much for coming and explaining. I appreciate that. You had mentioned that I understand that parents in our district, and I'm a parent, and I was in that situation at some point where I wouldn't feel comfortable providing information to the school because of the lack of understanding of the school system, right? Not for any other reason, but I also, in my work, I try to educate parents, and sometimes it's very hard for them to understand that it will go to Medicaid, it will go to the treasurer's department, but that's it, that's where it stands, it doesn't go anywhere else, right? But it's hard for a lot of our parents, or at least my experience, for them to understand that. So it's scary, it's a scary situation a lot of times, especially now with the climate that we have. And so what, you had mentioned that the district is getting involved in increasing parental consent. What are some, yes, what are some of the ways that you, or the district is trying to provide this information, that it's not, to maybe encourage more
Absolutely.
parental consent?
Excellent question.
Thank you.
This is something that's always reviewed at IEP meetings.
Okay.
Okay. I'll have at least one IEP meeting a year, oftentimes more than one. And actually with SEMI, once you get parental consent in one time, that's all you need. But that's something we review all the time. So we're trying, we're doing our best. Of course.
If I can follow up on that,
Please.
and thank you so much. I feel
My
like
pleasure.
I know so much more about special education medical initiative than I did before you started speaking. I appreciate it. IEPs are done every year, and every year you ask for the information necessary to send up to where it's needed. So, and I don't, not proposing an answer, but
Sure.
we've been doing that and that's not working because we have
You're right.
60% of the eligible students are receiving reimbursable services, and we are not getting reimbursed for all of that. I'm thrilled to know, and I'm not surprised to know, that of course we are still providing the service. But it would also be nice to get reimbursed.
Absolutely.
So is there, or has there been some type of educational forum or parent meeting, something in addition to the individual IEP meeting where you can either privately or publicly help parents understand, one, the importance of providing the information, and two, the safety of that information once it's
We
provided?
haven't, at special education parent advisory council meetings, that is something we'll discuss. Is that something where the entire focus of the meeting is about SEMI? Absolutely not. That may be something we should look into. What we do, like I said, on a consistent basis is IEP meetings, et cetera, where case managers are vigilant in trying to get that semi-part participation. But yes, maybe we should have a general meeting where we're just focused on that, and that's it. It's a good idea.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Can I make a suggestion? And
Sure.
this is just perhaps a frequently asked questions sheet
Sure.
that goes home in English and Spanish.
We have that.
Okay.
We do have that. That's a good question, too. Yeah, well, yeah, we have that.
Great.
Okay. So I think that some of the suggestions, and especially having a forum where you just focus on SEMI.
Yeah,
Since
absolutely.
that seems to be an area that,
Okay.
we need to, when I say improve upon it, I mean improve upon it in terms of revenue. And, but I think that to be able to talk with the parents and, maybe either, a full group, a district-wide or at each of the schools to just set up a special ed parent
That's fair.
meeting and just say, look, we're going to talk about this and reassure them that their information is only going to these two places and ensure them, and have interpreters so that they're sure that they understand what's happening. I think that'd be a great idea.
I think so, too.
And I think what would sway most parents, what would sway me is understanding that if I give this information, then somebody else pays, and then the district's money then can pay for
Other
other
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that would sell me on trying the safety, the security of the information, and the advantage to the district as a whole.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
It was very informative. We appreciate that.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr. Beck, for
okay. What? I'm sorry.
We have a motion.
Yeah, it'd be good to have we did have a motion and we did have a second. And now, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Dodd?
Yes.
Ms. Rosales?
Yes.
Mrs. Mullen?
Yes.
Mrs. Phillips?
Yes.
Ms. Rosario?
Yes.
Ms. Ruiz?
Yes.
Mr. Scarnio?
Yes.
Dr. Sena?
Yes.
Ms. Pelekis?
Yes. No report from Mine Hill. Okay. All right, we are down to old business. Open the floor to the board.
Yeah. Okay. As most of you know, I am Vice President of Morris County School Boards. I am also on the Board of Directors of New Jersey School Boards. And Morris County School Board meetings are an opportunity for board members to get together, to share ideas, best practices, and also we offer training opportunities for that. They're not public meetings, they're closed association meetings for board members and representatives from our board. The Board of Directors, in light of the tragic issues that have happened with the school shootings, decided that our normal meetings this time of year, we would do advocacy, where we have the legislators come in and talk to board members. We decided to change that and focus on school safety at the last meeting. And as part of that, we had the police chief of Denville, the Denville superintendent of schools, and Morris County Prosecutor's Office for Homeland Security come in and give a presentation. Denville was chosen because they have a fully working program in place already. Besides the Denville schools, which is a K through 8 district, they also house Morris Knolls High School, Morris Catholic High School, the County Vo-Tech School is in there, and I believe there's one other school. I think they said there's actually 5 districts, so they cover a broad spectrum of opportunities. And they gave us a demonstration, or I should say a talk about how they run their program, how they use SROs, Class 2 officers, private security people, the whole gamut. Unfortunately, at this meeting, one of our board members was very, very vocal about their distrust of the whole SRO program. I don't believe that that is the feeling of the Dover board, but that's the way that it came across. It was really very confrontational with the police chief of Denville. I received phone calls from New Jersey school boards, from the president of the county, basically saying, what the heck is going on in Dover? And, you know, we talked about it, and I made the apologies for it. It's important to remember that when we go to a county association meeting or a state meeting, this is not an opportunity for us to air our own personal views. We represent the Dover Board of Education, and we really have to temper and be careful that we don't let our own emotions, whether we are, right, and a lot of times we are, but they are our own personal views and not necessarily the views of this board. And we have to really temper what we say when we're at these meetings. It was a very negative view of the Dover Board of Education after that meeting. We have unique circumstances in this town which we are aware of. The vast majority of Morris County does not face those same issues. They don't look at this the same way, and they basically don't understand it. They're looking for the safety of their kids, and what they saw basically was an attack on this program. So that's the only thing I'll say. We really need to be careful when we do attend these meetings and how we present ourselves.
Did the board member say this was their personal opinion?
The board member did not say that it was the Board of Education of Dover's opinion,
But
they know that's where they're from.
Okay, but just identified as a Dover board member.
Yeah.
And I do want to caution the entire board that when we are, particularly when we are going to things that are New Jersey School Boards Association, and we're out there representing, when we take a look at not necessarily the code of ethics, but the oath that we take as board members in terms of, supporting majority opinions. So I think that it always behooves us to remember that when we are out there and we are speaking about things, we need to be cognizant of the fact that if, particularly on issues, where the board has voted and has as a majority group, has made a determination, it doesn't help us to, I undermine is too big a word, but at the same time, once the board has taken action, it's the board's action. It's what everyone has agreed, or the majority has agreed, this is what we're going to do. So we have to be very careful when we go into the community and we have an opposing view, that that's not viewed as the Dover Board of Education views. So I think all of us need to be reminded of that and take into account, there have certainly been things, I'm not going to say not necessarily on this board, but on other boards that I've served on, where I have been in the minority and not in agreement with what the group is saying, but I respect the fact that the group has made a decision, and it just didn't go the way that I wanted it to. So I would be very careful not to go into the community and say, look, this was really, the board voted this, but this is just not a good thing. So I think we all have to be cognizant and reread not only our code of ethics, but also the oath of the board members, which talk about, supporting the full, the time for disagreement, the time for is at the table or in executive session. So, and that's the opportunity for board members, and I'm saying this for the community members, the opportunity for board members to kind of hash things out are when we're sitting at this table together as 10 individuals who are making decisions. And everyone has a chance to have their voice heard, everyone has a chance to put forth what they believe is correct, and then the board as a whole takes a vote. And whatever position is the position of the board is what should be, we should be very careful about that. So that's all I'm going to say on that, but everyone should be cognizant of that and the oath.
Ms. Pelesas, I have 5 items of old business, if I may have the floor. Sure. Thank you. As Mr. Scarnio stated, there was a school safety meeting at the Morris County, New Jersey School Boards Association, and I was the other board member that attended that meeting. The superintendent of the Denville School reminded us that neither armed guards nor SROs prevented the shootings in Columbine nor Parkland, so that prevention of school shootings is where schools should be focusing their efforts and resources. The Denville superintendent and the Denville chief of police presented a wheel of student staff safety and security. And that wheel includes strengthening communication between the district and the community as the top priority, a focus on behavioral health, securing the facilities and making good use of technology, building trust between students and staff, building trust between the police and the school, practicing preparedness, and deploying security personnel. The superintendent and the chief of police agreed that schools should address all the other elements in the wheels first, before taking the expensive step of hiring school resource officers. The director of county critical infrastructure, who was the representative from the Morris County Prosecutor's Office Department of Homeland Security Division, added that risk assessment and prevention, ensuring things like that the doors lock properly and that students and staff do not prop doors open, which I guess is, according to him, a common occurrence in schools, that working with the police to run drills like implementing ALICE, and ensuring that social workers are available and equipped to identify and intervene with potentially violent students is paramount. My disappointment came when I asked, I believe my question was directed to the police chief as to why addressing white supremacy was not part of the wheel, given that so many of the mass shooters are white supremacists, why that wasn't included in the student safety and security wheel. And especially at that time, we had just received notice that there was white supremacy flyers all over County College of Morris, threatening those students. And his response was dismissive. That same night, we also received a presentation from a Madison Elementary School principal, Kathleen Koop, And she urged board members to recognize the importance of race, ethnicity, and white privilege in our work. She encouraged board members to have conversations on how to define student achievement and how to measure it, basing our decisions on data. She encouraged board members to celebrate the achievements of students, teachers, and the community. And she also reiterated that board should have a shared vision as well as goals for student achievement. And just to respond to Mr. Scarnio's point, I certainly did ask about why white supremacy wasn't included and what all schools, of course especially our district, could do to increase safety. At no point did I voice my opinion on SROs, and at no point did I speak to our 4-hour board, and at no point did I disrespect anyone in any way. I'm not only a board member, but also an officer of a court, and I always address all speakers with the same respect that I expect that I am addressed. So I appreciate that Mr. Scarnio was so gracious as to offer an apology, and certainly now that I'm aware, I'm happy to reach out to anyone that may have been offended. I simply ask questions, as this board knows I often do.
And the only thing that I'd like to say in response to that is, while the information that you are providing to us came through a New Jersey School Boards Association presentation, ultimately we are the ones to make the decisions based on what is occurring in Dover. So with all due respect, I've gone to presentations where they have had the Mendham Board of Education or the Summit Board of Education or the Denville Board of Education. Their issues are very, very different than the issues that we have in our community. And so we have to make decisions for this community based on the information and data we receive about this community. So that while I recognize that all of the things that they may be talking about in Denville is because Denville doesn't have as large a minority population as we do. So in a situation in which there are less, where there is really a minority population and it's a predominantly white school, I think that there are more risks than we have within the Dover school system with regard to our students, since we are predominantly a Latino school. And so I think that we have to make our decisions based on data we receive here in Dover, from our police, from our superintendents, and from the community, which is one of the reasons that I've talked repeatedly, and is now a good time to even just throw out I know we're talking about old business, but the climate survey, the grant. Okay. Very interestingly, I have been saying all along that I really think that it's important that we do climate surveys of everybody in this community, because we need to know what the community thinks, what they believe, and do everything that we can to get parents and teachers and students and everybody part of the process. Very interestingly, just this week, and I was away this week, and I saw there is, I believe it is a grant. There is a grant application that is due on April 27th, and the New Jersey Department of Education will come in and assist us in doing a full climate survey of our school district. They will send trainers, they will send individuals to assist us with the climate study. I mean, I read the grant online, and I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what we need, and we'll actually get funds to do it. And so one of the things, I'm sorry for throwing this out to you, but it has to do with what you're saying. I want everything to be, I keep saying but I think we should all want everything to be Dover specific. We're Dover specific. We have so many things to be proud of in this community. We have so many things that our students have accomplished, and we have pride in our community. So I think we need to do more things, but we need to know how the community feels. And one of the ways to do that is to have surveys from students and teachers. And so If we could kind of just do a straw poll as to what, because the application is due on April 27th, and if we're chosen, there are a lot of services that we can get from the Department of Education to assist us. So could I kind of do a straw poll as to whether we think this is a good direction to go in?
Yes.
Yes? That's what I thought.
Do you have,
There we go.
yes, but how's the timing? I know you have the budget to present on the 24th.
Well,
so-
we're just going to put pedal to the metal
Okay.
and
Who's the pedal to the metal?
the pedal to the metal, Mr.
I was just wondering. I mean,
You're being voluntold.
Does it, Mr. Bullock?
No, he does the federal, that's all right. We'll,
Okay.
is it-
Yeah, it's going to have to be, because I think this is something that really, really would help us, because we've been talking about this for so long, we haven't moved on it, and now here's a grant that'll give us money, that'll do great things, and more than anything, provide training. I mean, and it's not just turnkey training. They'll come in and train us and say to us, these are the things you can do. And it was funny because Mr. Becker, when, at the end of the meeting today, he said to me, by the way, there's this grant, and I said, oh my God, the one that's due on April 27th, because I had just read about it, and I only got it because I get superintendent letters.
got the inside
I
track.
have an inside track, and I got a superintendent letter through someone who shall remain nameless, and I saw the inside letter. I saw the inside letter to superintendents, and I went, wow, this is what we have to do, but I didn't want to like just throw it out there. And then when Mr. Becker mentioned it, and I said, yeah, go for it. So, yeah.
One thing, while they did give us the example of Denville, they did say that that is it's a very specific, district by district plan that has to be come up with, working in conjunction with the schools and with the local authorities, which we've already done. We've had the Dover police come in and talk with us. The other thing is that Morris County prosecutors do come in and they do a complete threat assessment and survey of all the buildings. And I found it, pretty shocking of some of the things that they focus in on. Areas of vulnerability, like where utilities come in. Are your utilities, very vulnerable to an attack? And I immediately think of our car hitting our gas line not too long ago. We now put the ballards up in front of it, but that is something that's out in the public that could be attacked. So that's another thing that we'll do.